完了，当年先对的。我大灭天别的八个音，八兄弟为你的不拉谁些呢？想到虽来你别对手心，天拉你不拉做的所完的。皆当让心看那么的，却当那当被去所觉吧呢。云西日九八尼西尼，天上的线东的所安的，地当的根对马堂吉，把用心给心灵众生，东面面把空别皮胸，特别把人生的所安的。天地长久为你别别别，世上面不来你年老多的，前路塞巴这边南多人心，鬼灭天把天地所完的，强别落心你激动说，当着外面把你说南不拉达。东面有大街拉大有心，没大也不拉身体说啊。年望年落给几没东西，高低下呀你不去论起，给月光子上不没东西，新年平时刚的说啊。说说了的那牛山的张也说说了这边西了给，接着接着就不了没些把眼睛看不了接着说，前不了朝了这些这些，老面那么大把能接上去了呢，给了这位老这一位的。用松我的自己说，天得云的去来给港都云的这边啊，茶席这边绿色的把干嘛把月光把总结说。我上街去当所夜上那么老乡就帮助当年耶稣，大概去年一边是那么严重了本，上街住不了修，上街去当所夜上那么乡就帮助当年耶稣。大概去年一边是那严重了本，上街住不了修，上街去当作业就妈妈，上学报读当的有素。大概去年一边是那么严重了本，上街住不了修，上车往南去见小宝。解说也让对线社会，给我众生大给介绍把堂接当，传授节目，稍息不拘就些面多，人说为那些年的眼巴，长夜心对没得不爱。如果能到心来绝不拉手，身间能也上班，落叶接着接到，其中的梦的把一去给公路公路说。 네, 생근데 하나 아주 저러저러 나는 지는다 내가 너무 뭐 저는 별로 나가야 나가 저런데 왜 열을 저러도 먼저 막아요 저도 좀 너무나 먹으려 다음에 저는 이제 하나라면 면제 한번도 계절을 추게 줘서 가지고 나서 그래서 대단히 다음에 저는 이제 하나 저도 그냥 디질로만 잡아 가서 되는데 최근에 매년 년마다 그런데 이제 하게 나는 여기 정말 다음에 로그이라 마담제게도 나게 쉐덴도 강게 근데로 가만 맞으면 맞으면 마담 뭐 오면 마담 받아들이면 되면 주변이 이제 마도 사람 담바데라 잔젤로 시작하는 일을 이용해서 눈들을 보게 되면 먹으면서 먹을 일을 보자라 잔젤로 하는 거죠. 그래서 아마가 맞고 이런 시집을 이담는 뭐 맞추려고 지금 요즘 남자들이 그러면 라면 도저히 영원하자 반에서 말을 못해 다 저러면 돼요 그러지 먹어요 고소노 영어로 자도 시제주는 그다음에 예술을 거는 주는 거라 지지 않는 이거 미기도 하지 잘나서 다 가려는 게 지금 이랬지 얼라서 다 이제 남한테 게 상관올이야 삼지 쉬어다 잡지도 다 윤자리 인기
First, I would like to offer all of you my greetings. And I would also like to apologize for having to postpone this week's teachings by one day.
미세기 다카슈에 계자 진이지 슌되어 총송
Now, before I begin the actual teaching, there are a few words I would like to say. A few days ago, I heard that there was a bit of a COVID outbreak at the Jutta Monastery in Dharamsala. When I heard this, I got very worried, but I didn't know the actual situation in detail. Even though I wanted to say something about it, I didn't know what to say. So now the situation is that many Sangha members were infected with the illness, but there is probably only one who is seriously ill. So it seems that most of the Sangha members are in good health, and there are probably many who did not show any symptoms. The best thing is that among all of the elderly elders of the Sangha, there weren't any difficulties with the illness. And so in any case, the situation was not so bad. Now, for myself, a week or two after I arrived in India, after fleeing Tibet, I went to Jutta Monastery. Now, at that time, there were only a few monks of the Jutta Monastery there. Most had yet to move. And at first, I only planned to stay there 1 or 2 months, but in the end, I ended up staying there permanently. And I lived there for 18 or 19 years. And during all those many years, they let me do whatever I want for the whole time, inside and outside the entire monastery. They let me make new doorways, put in new windows in places where there weren't, make holes in walls, remove walls entirely, and so forth. There was never any complaint about what I want to do, and they treated all me very well. And so it wasn't just me; it was also many workers in our of our Tsupo Ladrang. And it's like we had taken over the top from the bottom, the top floor and the ground floor of their temple. But all of the precious Kempo of the monastery and the stewards and all of the monasteries were happy to let us do whatever they want, took great pains to ask us what else they could do for us. Now, when I arrived in India, I had many difficulties. And it even got to a point where I wondered whether I had done the right thing in fleeing from Tibet to India. And so was that sort of a situation distinction, but I thought that I never made a mistake in terms of where I stood. And I thought it really worked out well to be able to stay at the Jutta monastery. And that's how I felt about it. And my sister also thought so. And someday everyone who'd come with me from Tibet and everyone related to the Ladrang said the same thing. And so really, in actual fact, they're extremely kind and extremely kind to us. Even if I'd stayed at a Kaiji monastery, I think it would have been difficult to be treated well, to just say straightforward. For example, sometimes in the winter, I would stay in Bodh Gaya for a few months, and people would say a thing or two. But all the time that I stayed in Jutta, no one said even a single word, made a single word of complaint. And so I think that the monastery it's a great monastery, had a really very good attitude, similar than many others. So many people thought it must have been a hard situation, a difficult place. But from my own point of view, I don't think that it was actually a bad situation or a difficult place. And there are many reasons for this. And the reason is, and the older monks from Jutta Monastery would say to us that when they came from Tibet in 1959, they went through Bhutan. And the 16th Karmapa gave them aid and assistance, different, unlike many other people. And so the older monks all say this. And so they're saying that there's a special connection already. And also, before I left Tibet, I had a dream. And in the dream, I dreamt that I was walking near the wheel of Dharma and the deers that are on the dreamt of the area in front of the monastery where the hostel buildings are now. And so I had a lot of so I saw a lot of it in my dreams. Also, before I fled, I went down to Lhasa, and I thought, well, probably I may not be able to see those again. So I went to so they had a chance to go to Ramoche Monastery. I'd never been to Ramoche before. And so that was the first time that I went to Ramoche. And so when I look at the good signs like this one, I think that there must have been some particular reason why I had to spend such a long time in Jutta Monastery. I don't think that it was a pointless or meaningless and that I stayed there because of having difficulties. I don't think that at all. And so for these reasons, and so understanding this and the guidance, I think that we all need to make the prayers that everyone at the Jutta monastery may that the COVID outbreak at the monastery may subside, and that none of the monastery may all recover without any ill effects. And so actually, when the outbreak began, the monastery spent 6 months with a very strict lockdown, and there were not any difficulties at all. But now in India in general, people are relaxing about it, and there have been fewer people illness, and so the restrictions have been relaxed, and everyone's more relaxed about it. They're paying less attention to it, but and so everyone thinks that actually there's no reason to be discussed. So this situation probably happened because of that. However, because it's not actually a real difficulty or not a real danger, I think everyone please react to that. Now, I'd also like to. I thought I should speak a little bit about Tsongkhapa now that I've been speaking about the Jutta Monastery, and you will understand the reason why later. So generally, when you talk about the two monasteries of the Great Secret Mantra, the two greatest or major monasteries, the Jutta Monastery and the Jubei Monastery. So these two monasteries are really very important for Buddhist teachings in general, and in particular for the teachings of Lord Tsongkhapa. And generally, in the Gelugpa lineage, there are three main idams, the Guhya Samaja, Chaksatambara, and Vajrabhairava. And the one of these whom Tsongkhapa considered most important was probably Guhya Samaja. And for that reason, it is said that if there is Guhya Samaja, then that is the Gelugpa there are the Gelugpa teachings, and if there are not, there are no Gelugpa teachings. In Jamyang Chuje's Liberation Story, Tsongkhapa says, on a throne studded with many jewels, the omniscient Buddha Rinchen Drup, who gave him the root tantra of Guhya Samaja and said to him, be the master of this and supplicate the glory. He gave him the volume with the mantra and mudra and blessed him on the top of his head. He realized the points of mixing power from the mantra and the tantra, the fifth instructions of Nibble Goan, and supplicate the glory. In brief, this describes how he developed certainty that Marpa's instructions on mixing and po are the meaning of the tantra and the fifth instructions of Nagarjuna's difficulties. Likewise, also, Jogul Kandasanu was someone who a citation of Rupa Kunyak, and he was someone who would say no matter what he thought, whatever came to his mind. So one time, he met some mountain retreatants who lived a very simple life, and they said all those people who, all those philosophers spend so much time worrying about the words, and they don't understand the actual meaning. And the best thing is the actual points of Tantra. The best are the Kajupas. And Gelugpa said to them, no, it's not that. And so what he immediately said to them is, you don't understand. So it's better for you to shut your traps and stay there. And he said a lot of different things to them, but among them, he said this about the Gelugpas. The Gelugpas that have the tantras that Marpa brought from India, including Guhya Samaja, Chaksambara, and Bhairava, Hevajra, and their practice. They meditate on the path of the unified creation and completion, and they have the points of the point and prana and mind entering the central channel. It's the unmistaken practice in the Gelugpa school, he said. And he also spoke about the Sankhya school, and he said, you folks, this won't fit in your mind, so you better just shut up and sit there, is what he said. And so Drupal Kunle was, in our Tibetan histories, is someone who just said without any restraint whatever came to his mind. And so I thought I would share this with you. But next, I thought I should give some quotations from Tsongkhapa's own disciples. And I thought that this would help us in terms of learning how to think. There's also Tsongkhapa's disciple, Chengo Sunmin Jasm. Now, he was from the Padmakara Buddhism. He said in his question and answer string of Vaidurya, he said that Lord Tsongkhapa not only never refuted the Kagyu tenets, he also said that this can be proven in his own tradition. And so what he's saying that in terms of the view, Je Tsongkhapa is that Tsongkhapa liked the consequentialist view, and among that, he especially liked Chandrakirti. Now, he also said that Lord Marpa was also a consequentialist or prasangika. And the proof of this is saying that is that in Marpa's song, he says, on the banks of the river Ganges in the east, due to the kindness of the great Guru Maitreya, I realized the ground, the non-arising dharmataya, the mind blazed in emptiness. And so that he's saying that, so that so Maitreya taught the teaching the non-arising dharmata to Marpa, and this is the meaning of the Chakrasamvara. And also, in another of Altanchi Kepe Dorje, another student of disciple, he says that there's no Vajra master greater than Vajra, who upholds the teachings of, who teaches the teachings of Nagarjuna and Naryadeva without any adornment. Also, there are others who said that there's no greater Vajra master than Marpa, and he said this over and over again. Generally, when we think about the consequentialist tradition, there are two traditions, one presenting all phenomena as mere existence and saying that they become true, and some that say that they do not become true. So the different question is the presentations of the relative truth. And so as a support from this, Tsongkhapa said that as reported this, that Milarepa said things that are similar things. And the way that they're similar is that in Milarepa Sangha, Milarepa said, in accordance with all your beginner's thoughts, the omniscient Buddha said that everything exists. So this speaks about how conventionally everything exists. Then, in terms of the ultimate truth, there is not even a Buddha, and so forth. So that is the ultimate truth, the ultimate teaching on how things ultimately do not exist. The existent appears things and non-existent impotence are inseparable in essence on one flavor. And so ultimately, there's not even the words for samsara and relative and ultimate phenomena don't exist at all. But relatively, they are, and so then when we there's the middle way teaching of the ultimate emptiness, and the teaching that according to the realists that things exist relatively, and so the joining these two as one is a particular view of the Kaji school, as Tsongkhapa said. And he also said that there is a teaching, he said that Gampopa said of a quotation for Gampopa that when you realize emptiness, you must be more detailed about independence. And Tsongkhapa said this is a really important point. And also he said that, Tsongkhapa also said that Patmodrupa was a really authoritative being. And he also said that Gyawa Yungapa was a yogi who had the ultimate view of the perfection stage and praised him very highly. And he said that the views of the Mahamudras are do not present the discriminating prajna, and so they're excellent. And so these are what the actual words of Mikanojana. So sometimes later masters said that the Mahamudra was a Hashang vow view and it was a nihilistic view, but Tsongkhapa himself did not say this. He said it was excellent. And so so this master he was actually heard as saying this. Likewise, when he taught the Tantra at that time in Tibet, Sangwajupa, Chakrasamvara, and Vajrabhairava were the most important. And so Tsongkhapa emphasized, and he said that the Guya Samaja, the Marpa tradition was the best tradition on this, and he made things that were not so clear in the tradition even more clear than they had been before. And he said that for many students, the pith instructions of Marpa were absolutely necessary to develop certainty, and so therefore he made Marpa traditions the most important. Likewise, with the Chakrasamvara, he made Naropa's tradition the most important and filled that in with teachings from other Indian masters. With Hevajra, although there's no great practice of the Vajra in his practice, but he primarily considered the Ngot tradition of that to be most important. And when teaching the completion stage of the Tantra, he said that the explanation of that gets the clearest presentation of all the the crucial points of the father and mother tantras is the 6 yogas of Naropa. And so in brief, he says that there are different terminologies, but the actual teaching on the view, meditation, and conduct are basically the same in Tsongkhapa's presentation and the Kagyu. There are differences in terminologies, but they're just different ways of explaining, and there's no great difference in meaning. No, so there's really no instance where Tsongkhapa was no reason to say that Tsongkhapa was displeased with the Kagyu teachings, that he didn't like them and he refuted them for that reason. The reason we can say this is that Tsongkhapa also refuted some Indian masters, and so this is not a sign that he disliked them. In fact, he also said that Tsongkhapa said that the precious Kagyu lineage was in accord with him, and he said we should be delighted with it. Likewise, also is Kachupa, a great direct disciple of Tsongkhapa. He was one of the 4 main Kachupa, or the masters of the 10 disciples, the 10 disciplines. Now, some people say that there are 4 of these masters, but whether you say there are 4 of them or 1, Basar Kachupa is one of these. And in the 5th volume of Tsongkhapa's collected works, there's a notes on Guhismaya by Basar Kachupa. And I received a teaching, an old text of his on an explanation of the Kagyu teachings, and said that the teachings of all the Buddha's compassion and wisdom was condensed into once and brought into into Tibet by the Kagyu tradition. And the one who is teaching these and determined them is my own Lama at Tsongkhapa. And so he should never say that he did anything to harm the Kagyu teachings. And so that he used a lot of scriptures and reasoning to show that Tsongkhapa never did anything to harm the Kagyu teachings, but instead supported them and propagated them. And generally, when we talk about we have a question about whether Tsongkhapa's view was whether his analysis had gone to the end or not, or whether it fit with whether it fit with the teachings of the earlier Tibetan masters. There are many, and there are people who, but this is something that we need to really examine. Whether this is the actual situation or not, we need to examine ourselves. For example, Tsongkhapa's own the Golden Garland of Explanation said that I have not described the nature-free of elaborations of the 8 streams as Nagarjuna's disciples did, because the words alone would scare people. And so when we look at this, we infer from this passage, we said that even from his own time, he had his own particular presentation of the middle way, even at that time. Not only that, Tsongkhapa's own direct disciple, Gulo Tsawa Shinupal, wrote in his, it's written in his life story that Je Rinpoche appeared in Tibet like a Buddha appearing in this world. When Tsongkhapa went to Sojong and other rituals, he was such a magnificent that all the mountains actually started to shake. And so he had that feeling, is what he said. Likewise, in a text called The Great Medicine of Amrita, that even Vajrapani would not be able to understand the qualities of Tsongkhapa. So there's no higher praise than you can give of the qualities of Tsongkhapa. However, but in this said that the followers did not pay so much attention to that, and didn't pay attention to his qualities. Also, one time Tsongkhapa himself, once when he was speaking about the definitive and the expedient meaning, what he said is that is saying that there is also a way of presenting the definitive and expedient meaning that does not contradict with this explanation in the sublime continuum. And so in this way, so Tsongkhapa was such a great person. So at that time, people would teach him that it's so they should have the people should have given him a mandala and asked him to explain this further, but no one did, and so he did not. And so Tsongkhapa didn't explain. So if you look at Gulo Tsawa's teachings, we say that at the time that there's some of Tsongkhapa students paid attention to some of his teachings, but not to other aspects of them. So I think that's probably what happened later when we look at the Golden Garland of Precious Explanations or Jamyang Shepa's teachings. These are considered highly in the Gomang monastery and some of the Amdo teachings. But most of the other Gelugpa students, followers, have not really paid much attention to these sessions. But in any case, and so for this reason, and for this and there are many of the controversies about the Nyingma tradition and so forth that happened. Also in Tsongkhapa's instructions on the 6 yogas, there are instructions about the simultaneous individuals and the gradual individuals. And so these, and so Tsongkhapa said that the simultaneous or the individuals are those who have to be those people who have already achieved a high level of realization. And Tsongkhapa also said in some notes that it is not necessary to give the 4 empowerments of the Vast, Secret, Prajna, and Wisdom empowerments to the greatest of students. And so there is such, and so he said things such as this as well. So, for example, in the old Tibetan way of thinking, in the world Tibetan tradition, so there's something that's different than others. They would really like it, and they'd really build it up. If there's something that was the same, they would sort of put it at the side. They kind of hide it, and they say because it's not so special. They say they wouldn't pay much attention to it. For example, if we look at the teachings of the Buddha Shakyamuni, the teachings of the foundation, the greater vehicles, and the fourth. And so this is I think this is a special feature of how it's a wonderful activity that can fulfill the needs of all the different students. And so when you have such a great scholar and master as Tsongkhapa, the fact that he has many different ways of teaching for different students is a sign that he has a really profound way of thinking. So some of his students say some of his followers saying that one type of his teachings is logical and is tenable, and another is not, and they really spend a lot of time saying that this is the particular teaching and so forth. But I think that this has actually become a bit of an impediment to Tsongkhapa's teachings spreading widely among all the lineages. And so that is the way I think about this sometimes. And so today I sort of felt like I had to say something about that. But in any case, I think it's important for us to look at everything from a very broad speaking. And the more we can think about things from all perspectives, and we can see that Tsongkhapa is not some of just a sectarian philosophical school or sectarian leader. It is not. Seeing that he's actually kind to a had a great effect on the teachings in general and for all Tibetan lineages. Sometimes when we give explanations, we don't know how to explain things. We are not skillful about how we explain. And so sometimes it's difficult for us to explain things in ways that everyone can understand clearly. So that is enough on that right now. So next, I thought I would like to speak about the sixth of the deeds. The other day, I spoke about the sixth of the good deeds from the autobiographical versus the good deeds. And there's a little bit more to say about this. This is, so first of all, I thought I would remind you of the root verse for the sixth good deed. So this is it. This is the root text of the sixth good deed. If I read it once. Besides the true protector, the three jewels, no other refuge gave me confidence. The jewels and all joys and woes, I had not a whit of any dependence or hope in anyone else. I think of this as one of my good deeds. Now, from the time that Lord Mikyo Dorje was young, he remembered death and impermanence and the suffering of samsara so keenly, or perhaps too keenly, that it gave him insomnia. And if we express it in comments, he was always like complaining about it or whining about it. It's like he was saying, it's terrible, it's not good. So what Mikyo Dorje himself said was that when we think about the meaning of impermanence, the most helpful thing for us to think is that the meaning of impermanence is momentariness. Momentariness means that things do not endure from one instant to the next. And what's infinite, things that appearance don't need any other condition to perish. The moment that they arise, they naturally perish, and so that there's no other there's no other need for anything else. And so and also the text to talk about the meaning of impermanence is actually being nothingness. And so because of this, he developed certainty in the explanation in the texts on logic about the meaning of impermanence. And he also said, the reason why I, or Mikyo Dorje, saw that the actions for this life and particular plans in this life have no meaning at all, and the feeling or understanding I had from that, and the reason why I had this understanding, I had a feeling for how I got that, was reading the liberation stories of Lord Milarepa and Lord Gotsamba. We've all read the life story of Milarepa. And so Gotsamba is like, so like Lorepa and Gotsamba within our Kajulinja are the two people who really represent feeling revulsion for samsara. And so he is one of these two. Now he says, now no matter what friend I part from, I don't feel any poignancy in relation to this life for even an instant, Mikyo Dorje said. It's basically, once you have no attachment to this life, when you part from your dear friends and relatives, such as when they die, he has no attachment to them at all. And so no matter whom I associate with in order to have a good time or good situation in this life, they only think that he only thought that it was meaningless. And so there's a nice place to stay or a nice house or a nice place to be, he always felt like that it was like a room in a hotel that he was renting for a few days. He's always had the feeling that it's a place that he would not stay for forever. So he continually had this feeling of an impermanence. He's saying, I'm staying because he had no thought of this being my permanent place. I'm staying, and this is my room. He never had that feeling at all, he said. So in brief, Mikyo Dorje always spoke only about world weariness and the wish for liberation. And because of this, what many people said is that Mikyo Dorje, someone who's really small-minded. He's really flighty, you know. He's just not at all a stable person. He was always changing and changing his mind. And so people, you know, complained about him like this. They said about this behind his back, but Mikyo Dorje himself, what he said about this is, what I think is that what all of you who talk like this should go to where you're staying or to your bed and point your finger at your own heart and turn your thoughts inside and look. You should, you know, point your finger inside and think about and look in, turn your thought inwards and think. Do you have any idea when you are going to die? Do you know for certain? And when you die, once you've died, when you die, we have a little bit of hope within us, and we put our hopes on that. But even when we put our hopes on that, but when we die, but that little bit of virtue is not of enough a sort to determine where we're going to be born or not. There's not enough of a foundation or a basis. So no matter what sort of birth that we were born in, whatever new place we're born in, whatever new companions we have, and whether we have new possessions that will be unattractive, you won't even hear the words, the three jewels. You will spend your entire life in misdeeds and suffering, and if you're born in such a body, then what will you do then? You need to think about that. I'm not going to tell you. You need to think about it for yourselves. When you think about this, you couldn't even dare think about it. You should just be terrified of this, and you should think about it. Shouldn't you be thinking, what am I going to do? You should be thinking that. And so for that reason, you must give up on this lifetime. And in order to do this, no, whether your parents make a request of you or your relatives or powerful friends, whether they share their opinions with you, or you should say, I'm not going to rely on anything. There's no point in doing worldly things to placate your parents or doing worldly things to placate your relatives or powerful friends. You shouldn't think that you have to act the way they want, otherwise they won't like it. You should think, and you should always think, do what you want, let whatever happens, whatever comes. And so you all do what you wrote. And whatever happens to me, let that happen. And whatever comes to me, come. And you should have a real decisive feeling of this. You shouldn't give the rope around your neck to any other sentient beings. You should be, or the rope to your nose to any other sentient being. You should have your own freedom. And so that is that. And so that is. Now I've spoken about the sixth good deed in general, and there's a lot that could be said about it. But because of the time, we won't speak about it so much. So next I'll speak about the seventh good deed. Now I have to speak about it quite a bit. Otherwise, we just don't have enough time, right? Now the second, the seventh is the good deed is the first of the second main section. When you talk about the nature of the biography, there are two topics: the preliminaries, how to enter the Dharma, and the main part, how we practice the paths of the three types of individuals. So the first one, the how to enter the Dharma, has been explained in full. So we've got the second, the main part, how we practice the paths of the three types of individuals. And if we divide that into subtopics, There is how we practice the path of the lesser individual, how I practice the path of the middling individual, and how I practice the path of the greater individuals. In brief, there are the three different subtopics. And so now I'll speak about the first of these, how I practice the path of the lesser individual. Now, the root text reads, once I knew that all suffering that occurs is the result of my own wrongs, I could not complete in full unvirtuous acts with preparation, deed, and aftermath. I have not completed an unvirtuous act in this life. I think of this as one of my good deeds. So this is the first point in the second main section. So among the 33 good deeds, this is the seventh. So now we will take a break. And when we come back, I will give the explanation of the seventh good deed.